We didn't think an opening video would be appropriate. And so we figured we'd just drop in raw, guys. Man, I didn't think it would ever end. Like, in all honesty, like even when he got sick a few weeks back, I'm like, some part of me was just like, nah, this guy's not gonna croak. He's not going to, he's gonna be around for a while. My heart breaks for Rob after hearing the Carlo news. Oh, so Carlo Acudis's canonization got pushed back, which is appropriate.
Yeah, it's appropriate.
But
pushing it back for forever might be appropriate too.
I really didn't think it would happen like so suddenly like this. Like, I was not expecting this at all, man. Like, I figured he would do another hospital stint.
I don't know, man. To me, I figured they were sending him home out of the hospital to spend the last few weeks of his life.
You did say that. You definitely did say, like, when you saw the first picture of him, I was like, I don't know, man. Maybe he's gonna. You're like, nah, that guy's at the end. But I don't know.
And you know what? I'm glad he was able to spend his last few weeks back home.
Look, there's this conversation going on Twitter that I see, and I saw Rick Barrett saying stuff, but like everybody's like, look, the Catholic commentators are gonna do whatever they can to get clicks out of this, but it's like, dude, we're Catholic commentators and the Pope died. Like, are we not supposed to come on and have a conversation about it? Like, it's not about clicks. It's like,
it's not even just that. We're Catholic guys, right? Like,
yes, that's what I mean. All I wanted to do was talk to Catholic friends today. I work with a bunch of freaking heathens,
especially from like all the Protestants and non-Catholics at work today. I had a ton of questions. It's like, sure, now you're interested now.
Yeah. I had nobody to talk to all day. All I wanted to do was hear Catholic commentators talking about this issue. So it's like, to me, it's just crazy to jump in that position where you're like, you're not allowed to talk about this. It's inappropriate. It's like, look, here's the thing. There's like different ways people are going about this. I saw one commentator this morning, I won't name, like self-flagellating himself. And I'm like, I don't know. It's like, what are you doing there? Then I saw other people like coming out and like even Dr. Kwasniewski's response. Like, I do think there's an appropriate way to go about it where it's not Francis was the greatest thing ever, or, he was the worst thing the church has ever seen. I don't know. I think this is just a way to just kind of be honest.
Right. Be honest and respectful. Right. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Dude, there has been some amazing things that have happened under Francis. Unintentionally.
Right.
Unintentionally. Like, the three of us don't know each other without Francis. I mean, it's possible, I guess, but like the whole idea of us doing a show together, things like that, like that is a direct like effect of Francis. Like, that's the Francis effect. The Francis effect was people that he was like this divider who was like, you were either in the Where Peter Is crowd, or you kind of were a traditional or even a conservative Catholic who were just like your alarm bells were going off and you're like, there's something off here, and you kind of dug deeper into your faith. And I mean I've made so many freaking friendships because of the conversations that we've had on this show, and just, I mean, I don't know. There's so many good things about this pontificate that you can remember without trashing Francis necessarily. I mean, the guy did just pass today. I don't want to say, but to also pretend everything's been fine. I mean, have you guys ever known somebody who lost a parent when, like, maybe the mother was super overbearing or something, and the child said, like, there was a relief, and they feel guilty saying it, like, but there was a relief there when the parent passed?
Yeah, I've heard people describe it, though. I've never known someone in my personal life that's been in that situation.
I mean, there was a relief when my dad passed, you know, and like I just kind of reconciled with him, honestly, just months prior.
Yeah.
The relief. Yeah, I mean, there was definitely relief, and I think his passing, in me being a father now, helped me better come to terms with his fatherhood and where, you know, he had his failings.
Well, I know someone who very close to me, and their mother like had such high demands on it, and it was a very like performance based love, you know. So like if this person didn't do exactly what the mother wanted, they were like, you know, the mother would be furious with them and wouldn't talk to them, shun them, and stuff like that. Now, when you have, if you're, especially for women, if you're a woman and you have a mother like that, I could understand there being a relief where you don't have the pressure anymore, right, to perform and things like that. So I've seen it in natural families like that. And the thing is, it's been a rough 12 years, man. Like, it's been a really rough 12 years for Catholics who take their faith seriously. It's been nonstop beatings of just playing games with the faith, playing games with doctrine, pushing the limit on things. Man, every freaking week there was another news story that everybody had to cover. And it's like you get this reputation that like, oh, you're just a Francis critic. But it's like, what the hell? Like, I just want to talk to people about what I'm seeing.
I think also, like, especially for over the last, what is it, for almost 4 years now of Traditionis Custodes, like, like, you know, those of us who are trad, you know, whatever that means, like, we've really lived under a tyranny of sorts, right? Now, I mean, not anything like,
it's not physical,
like, right. It's not like full on persecution or anything, but like we've lived under the tyranny of a father that, you know, we feel like honestly didn't love us.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and like when the whole stupid synod thing started, right, and they had the diocesan phase where they invited you to go and speak your concerns, like I went to our diocese stupid little synod meeting, and for everyone else it was like, oh, we need the church to do more about social issues, we need the church to do more about drug abuse, and it's and like I stood up and told them, like, I feel like my church, like my spiritual fathers, like you as bishop and our pope, don't like me and honestly dislike me and my family, and now it's just like that tyranny's over, you know, and whether or not a new tyranny starts, I don't know,
right?
But the tyranny of Francis is over.
So, well, Nick, I watched your show today, and you and I do see like a change in a lot of your demeanor, a change in a lot of your approach. Now, I don't know if that was through reflection over Lent and stuff. Like, I think you probably focused a lot more on your interior life, and you're paying a lot closer attention to the things you're saying online, things like that. So I wasn't sure how comfortable you'd be with this conversation, even, you know, but I don't like, do you think there's anything wrong with us? Just, I mean, this isn't a bash Francis session. It's more just, dude, it has been it's an emotional roller coaster that we've been through for the past 12 years. And
and it's only the third death of a pope in my lifetime, and it's only the second death of a reigning pope in my lifetime. Right? It's a big event.
Well, not just that. Like, well, I'll let you answer first, Nick.
Well, I was just going to say, I had a person reach out to me asking my thoughts this morning, and I was looking at all the different commentators that you mentioned, and I said, you know, to myself, there's a fine line between canonization and condemnation, and that kind of seems to be the two general like trajectories that I see. Some people are lauding everything he did. And it's what's kind of scary, just on a like supernatural levels. It's a lot of the mainstream media and people just saying like he's in heaven, and it's just like, no, well, we don't know that. We actually, like, it's charitable to pray for him, like, because we don't know that outside of some type of divine revelation or something. And then there's of course going to be the other people who, you know, it was like it didn't matter any tiny good thing he could have done, it was still the worst thing ever. And so like you should talk about this. You have to talk about it, though, I think, in the level that's appropriate. It's like, first, you have to do unto others as you would have them do to you. So it's like, he's died. We should pray for his soul. And in tandem with that, we should pray for the next pope, because it's like this next pope. I was looking. I don't know if you guys have looked at like the like kind of generally like 10 to 12 potential lead figures. There's like 4 of them that are kind of solid.
We'll get into that. We'll dive. I do want to touch on this comment Rob highlighted though. So as a person looking to convert, this was my first Easter attending a Catholic church, and the Pope dies the next day. I'm trying to make sense of all of this. So there's also this fine line of there's a ton of new Catholics, Nick, you included, who have never been through this, have never really experienced the conclave. Right, like you came in 2020. You weren't paying attention to Catholic politics back in the last conclave, right? So
I actually was, because I'm that nerd. But aside from that, but it was nothing like this. I mean, I was a kid, that was 2013.
Yeah, and you didn't have much vested interest in it, like so much. It was more just like a worldly event that was happening. But for me, I vividly remember Benedict's election, and I also remember Francis's election very, very vividly. So now there's all these new Catholics that come in, and this is their first conclave, and it's like, like there's a period of mourning that we go through, but then there is something super exciting about electing a new pope. And especially if you're a new Catholic, it's like, I just came into the church, and like people just came in 2 days ago, and they're getting a new pope. Like, that is an exciting event, and it's I do think that this conclave is going to be one of the most consequential in church history, like not just our lifetimes, in church history. I think this could be the most consequential papal election. I do also have this really daunting feeling that we're going to look back on the Francis pontificate with fondness, saying, oh man, we had it easy back then. Like, because things get exceedingly worse for us. Like, we do not know what the future holds right now.
It's very true.
I find myself grateful for how awful the Protestants have been behaving. They're forcing me to defend him and see my own faults for not having the highest opinion of him, forcing me to pray for him. And that's another thing. I had to force myself to pray for him today, because there was no natural inclination to do it, but I knew it was the just thing to do. So I had to force myself to pray for Francis today. It wasn't easy, but it's like, I hope people pray for me when I'm gone, whether they love me or hated me.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Like, if you're a soul that's now died, it's detached from its body, and you're before the particular judgment immediately upon your death. Like, you're judged for every thought, word, and deed you did. What did you believe? How did you love? And because of your station in life as Pope, you will be judged way more strictly. This is why, like, I said this morning, I am genuinely sorry, not because you guys are wrong when it comes to, like, I think he had a psychological terror. I think that's the best way to describe it, because, for me, I was always just like, I don't know, is my parish going to get canceled? I don't know. And then when it did,
terror. It's a good way to describe it.
Exactly. It's scary. But then it's like, even with that, it's like, he was still our Father. And like, the only thing that we should do if we're called to love one another as Christ loved us is to pray for him. Of course, we're going to have these conversations about his legacy. Those have to happen, because we can't just continue being like, everything was fine, etc. That's why
what I've chosen to do is really think about how many, because every single good thing that's ever happened in my life came through a cross. Like, it really did. Every single good thing that comes in your life doesn't come easy. There's some kind of hardship to it. And all of the hardships you think you faced over the last 12 years, none of it was physical persecution, right? So it was all psychological torment, but there was also some beautiful friendships that I made through it. There was, I guess we'll jump into Lent a little bit.
Don't forget, we need to do an ad read.
15 you want to know something? Not just that, not even just to do that. Like, you guys do not realize how much you have helped us with the Recusant thing. Like, that Recusant said their sales doubled.
Oh, wow.
Sales from our code.
From our promo code doubled from our promo code from the month previous. So that probably was from everybody doing Easter sales, but they gave us a new promo code for Easter. So recusinsellers.com, you use code resurrexit. So it's RESURREXIT, and you'll get 20% off, not 10%.
And that's until when, hold on, let me look at the calendar real quick. Like May 2nd. You have until May 2nd to get 20% off instead of 10% off.
Yeah, and look, Mother's Day is coming up. They're great gifts for Mother's Day. They're great gifts for Easter, and they are an amazing sponsor. They let us say whatever we want. So if you guys want to help support the show, go buy a bottle, buy a gift for your mother or your wife for Mother's Day, and that helps us out. So Lent, I went to the Easter Vigil Saturday night, and it links into the traditionalists thing because I have to drive an hour and a half to go to a proper liturgy. But while I was sitting there, I had this overwhelming joy come over me while I'm at the vigil. I was staring up at the cross at Holy Innocents, and it brought me back to, which I think I talked to you guys a little bit about it on the show, where I was weeping in front of the altar when I was at like a really rock bottom place in my life and my marriage, everything. And I just remember being so broken and like begging God for help, and then just being angry with him because he hadn't helped me yet. And it's like, you promised to set us free. Why am I not free? But it was about 5 years ago that happened. And I'm in front of that same altar, and this overwhelming joy came over me. And it was like, there were 3 prayers I asked God to answer, and he answered all 3 of them. And it was during this tumultuous time in the church that God answered 3 major life determining prayers of mine. And it's like, I just had this feeling of joy come over me. And it was like, holy cat, like, God, you answer every one of my prayers. You freaking love me. I know there's nothing I could ask that you won't answer. So I prayed a couple of more prayers in front of that altar that has to do with my kids. But it's like all this mayhem going on, and yeah, I have to drive an hour and a half. But I don't know, man. I haven't felt God's presence like that in a while, and it's like there's no better thing to be than Catholic, even through all these crazy things that we're talking about.
Praise God. Yeah, no, I agree. That's awesome. I'd love to go up there. It looks such a pretty church on the photos that I see.
So nice, and even Lent was. I mean, I did the 40-hour fast this year. I never did that before. I've kind of took what Father Ripperger told us about fasting and tried to like fall in love with fasting. And I'm not going back to living like I was. Like, I'm going to stay doing what I was doing and just treat Sundays as feast days and just try to live that life of fast, feast, because it really is the epitome of what a traditional lifestyle is. It's like, if you're not living a life like that, where you're saving your feast days to be special and important, you're kind of just saying words at that point. You don't actually live the Catholic faith.
Yeah, there's this part in mystical theology where it's like, if we're attached to stuff like food or whatever, we can't even properly enjoy it, because if we're asked to let it go, we're these irrational creatures who just like, no, give me more. I cling to this, even though there's the objective good of God. But when we do detach ourselves and we're attached to God, then we can go back and rightly enjoy whatever the thing was.
The thing is, when I broke that 40-hour fast, I felt awful.
Oh, really?
I felt terrible. Like, I was just like, why did I eat? I could have made it longer too. I was like, I only went to 40 hours, and then like I was like, oh, I guess it's time to eat, but I easily could have kept going. So I think, I might try to do something like that, like once a week or once every 2 weeks or something. But Molly said she's feeling very attacked right now. So now what happens with the bishops that Francis punished, right? Like the Stricklands and the Cardinal Burke, right?
It all depends on what the next pope does.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't know what the future holds. It's really, and there is something to the, like, pontificating on what the future holds. But like, we're here now. We're coming up on a papal conclave. Like, I think they kind of broke us with the warm up a few weeks ago, because we kind of all had these conversations a few weeks ago thinking Francis was on his deathbed, but now he's gone. And it really, the political intrigue going on behind the walls of the Vatican right now. Everybody just politicking and trying to figure out whose guy is going to get in. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't have a good feeling about it.
I saw it was interesting. I saw Syrah trending on Twitter early this morning. And I'm not saying that that's, of course, like indicative of anything aside from just a lot of people liking that idea. But yeah, no, this is where it's like genuinely people have to pray for the conclave, because like there are some good candidates, because I don't think Syrah will get in. I pray that he will. But if he was, that'd be amazing, because as we all know, he's insanely holy. He's also very, very prudent, and he has his eyes open when it comes to the situation with Islam and with the migrant crisis and things along that nature. Pizzaballa would also be, I think, a pretty decent choice, because he would not only at least move the church into a more like liturgically tratty way and like a decent sound orthodoxy of truth, but also when it comes to the Middle East issues, right? He's pretty open. If
Pizzaballa is elected, he's going to reign 33 days like JP1, because the Israelis will kill him.
Yeah, I was about to say it might be fairly short, because he's open in his opposition. And then there's I'd obviously love to see Burke, right? Just because it'd be kind of cool to have an American pope, but
not going to happen. But
pretty doubtful. But I mean, the thing, I don't know. See, like what I'm praying for genuinely, and I'm asking God with expectant faith, and then also just trusting Him if this doesn't happen. I'm praying that we have some type of St. Pius V type figure, where if you look at that period after Luther's Reformation, the popes, they came in, but it was just, they couldn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like all your clergy is like messed up sexually, mostly. There's land problems everywhere. Northern Europe's apostatizing. All the orders are infighting, calling each other heretics. And then St. Pius V shows up, and he just, like, by the almighty hand of God, cleans stuff out through the power, especially through the power of the rosary. And I'm praying that's what happens. God rides straight with crooked lines. And so he could take a situation where, for instance, like, let's just say it's a moderate candidate, because there's two things everyone has to know about all the cardinals that the Holy Father has elected. One is that they all have more so pastoral backgrounds than they do academic, which can get a little, there's good and bad in that. And then two, they all come from the peripheries. So like there's cardinals now from Mongolia. There's cardinals from parts of Africa that have never been represented. But the hopeful good thing we can actually have in this is, because so many of these places are in the third world, which are more socially conservative, perhaps there is a good chance that we do have, at least on like sexual ethics, especially, like a conservative pope who holds the line.
Yeah, and you never know if if graces will come with the office and convert somebody. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's the kind of thing that is absolutely false. I think we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens with that. But I kind of just have this feeling that it's not gonna get better yet. It's just not. I really think we're gonna look back on the Francis papacy and be like, it wasn't so bad. We didn't know what we had when we had it.
It may not, but I guess, I don't know. I'm sometimes an eternal optimist, but I guess what my hope is it's like this. If we do, let's say, get like the prefect for Vatican State, that Italian one, he's really bad. I mean, he's like he's the, like, they suspect he's the ghostwriter of TC, and so getting someone who's like even more anti-TLM in there would be a nightmare.
That might be better. I don't know. Like, I almost don't want a moderate, man. Like, I worry about the moderate. The moderate makes me nervous. Rob, I want to play a clip of how the mainstream media is handling this, because this is the thing that's going to drive me the craziest. I just put it as mainstream media glazing. The way they're framing this is just infuriating. Like, this is just what they're gonna do, though. So you got it, Rob.
Sadness that Pope Francis' papacy has come to an end. The 88-year-old passing away early this morning after an extended illness, but just one day after a surprise appearance on Easter Sunday. Francis was the people's pope, reaching out, embracing, including the sick, the poor, the forgotten, pushing himself even as he became visibly frail, needing a cane and a wheelchair. Austin Ivory co-authored a book with
You
Francis.
think we're gonna get a copyright on this?
And that means
I want to pause it
Probably.
for a second.
Yeah, do a few pauses. That should
Do
be
a few
good.
pauses. So even Francis was the people's pope, right? And
Yeah, unless
this
you're
is-
white or trad or conservative or
this is where they're going to
Male.
get into how Francis is the first pope who ever talked about the poor and love, and totally different from all the popes of the past.
Yeah, the ABC article or the video that came out on like Good Morning America or something like that. It was like 5 minutes. 3.5 of the minutes were devoted to homosexuality.
of
Yeah,
course.
let's go. We'll get into it. It goes there.
encountering people. He's performing the gospel, and without that, for him, there's no 20% papacy for him.
In more than a decade as Pope, Francis moved the Catholic Church away from the culture wars and back to its original mission of love and mercy, throwing open the doors of the church to all.
Just
When
think
he
about
was
how
elected in-
insane that is.
They moved the church away from the culture wars. Are you joking me?
Climate change, migrant crisis.
He just joined the other side in those debates, but the culture war within the church has never been more pronounced.
Yeah, especially and again, I'm trying to like approach it delicately, but it's like Benedict. They hated Benedict. They made fun of Benedict all the time because he was, the ivory tower theologian who, at least on like social issues, was fairly conservative. And
Benedict was just as bad with climate change and stuff, though.
Oh no, I know, but I'm like,
He was just as bad with that stuff.
when it came to
It's like-
climate change, no, but like when it came to sexual ethics, like he was at least more like
Yeah.
pronounced of just saying no.
You-
But
you
the
know what it
line
is?
the line that I really don't like is when he says they open the doors to all, because it's like I literally had my doors shut and I'm not
Yes.
allowed to have mass in a church. Like I mean that's the thing where it's like again I'm trying to show as much like respect I can, but it's like I literally lost my actual physical church, and so did 700 other people. And they just this last week, we have a friend of mine actually who's in the chat who was there the week before, but in Detroit, they shut down, I think it was 38 traditional Latin mass parishes, 38 in one week.
Yeah, all right. Well, first off, real quick, I just want to say I will be on with Joe McLean on Joe's show
Good to see you,
Wednesday
Joe.
morning. Wednesday morning at 7:30, I'll be on with Joe McLean. Then I I took Wednesday off. So Wednesday is going to be a jam-packed day. I'm doing Joe's show in the morning. Then at 10 a.m. on our channel, I have Michael Hitchborn and Mark Lambert. And then at 1 p.m., I have Catherine Bennett. Just me and her are going to have a conversation. And then at 8 o'clock that night, Cale Zeldin is going to join me and Rob. Nick, you can join us for that one if you want. So I took Wednesday off. You guys are going to get like 5 shows that day. So yeah. We'll go from there. But
Send Anthony a $5 super chat to get him some energy.
Yeah, well, honestly, I took a day off of work, so if you guys want to throw me a tip, it would be appreciated. But this is the kind of stuff that makes it difficult to look on Francis's papacy with any kind of fondness. It's like it was just one thing after another, and just the confusion and
And not even that. Like I've been trying to not be super negative all day, about him, but I can't sit and watch these absolute lies being, being parroted and not just be angry about it.
Yeah. But that's the thing. He kind of set the stage for this, and he never clarified any of it, and he never, you know what I mean? It's not like the news is lying about what he did. Like that literally was the point of what Francis was doing, to put that message forward.
Ultimately responsible for it. I don't disagree there, but
no, the lie, what you're talking about, the lie is to act as if the church never was open to everybody, and the church, like that is the lie, as if Francis is the first pope who ever cared for the poor. Or I mean, it's just insane the way these people see things through a lens. It's so ridiculous. Like it is frustrating, man, and it's a difficult thing to swallow. And you think about all the good people who were punished because they spoke out and just said, hey, there's something about, like, I don't know, man. Like, is the next pope going to be Catholic? Like, what do we do if the guy what if it's Parolin that comes out? Like, we have tapes of Parolin endorsing homosexuality. like,
No,
and things
exactly.
like that. Like, what do you do at that point?
Francis wrote the forward to Jim Martin's book, so
Yeah, if
Yeah,
it's something
like it's
like
not too
that,
much worse.
if it's something like that, then we've kind of talked about it before, but it's like it's one of those situations where if the guy is openly going into the position, well known by everybody, hey, this guy does not hold the Catholic faith, then it's like, okay, does he
Like, there
even
can't be
become pope?
peaceful acceptance of that guy, right? Like,
Exactly,
we
there
have to
can't
be
be.
up in arms, like we really do have to be. And it is, look, there's never been a more exciting time to be Catholic, guys, but man, I'm very worried about the crop of candidates they're putting forward. Like, when I look at that list of guys that they're talking about being papabile, it's like, holy cow, we're in trouble if that's the way it goes.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where yeah, it's scary. I think about just all the doctrinal ambiguities. I mean, the one that was bigger, the biggest issue for me was the one last year. I think it was in summer, but it was the all religions lead to God comment.
Yeah.
That was the big one. But you mentioned, Anthony, and I think this is correct, like this time around, unlike in 2013 where like outside of like EWTN and a few like Catholic Answers apologetics, there was no Catholic like online media presence like there is today.
Yeah.
Nothing even close. Everyone's going to be watching, commentating. So if there is going to be like a quote unquote peaceful acceptance, it's going to only probably be with a guy who's fairly orthodox. Other than that, people are going to be up in arms.
Somebody's talking about going Orthodox. Like, I'll tell you one thing that also happened to me while I was at the liturgy on Saturday. Devin said it. Don't go Orthodox. Don't. Like, you'd be an idiot to go Orthodox. I'm sorry. Like, everything we're talking about, it's the Catholic Church is the church that the devil is after for a reason. Like, this is all the things we're seeing are because the church is the bride of Christ. Like, the Catholic Church is the church. There's no such. It's so funny when you hear the Orthodox talk about like Orthodoxy isn't a denomination; it's the one true church. It's like, you guys don't even agree with each other.
Which one?
Like, which one? Which one of the 50 or 60 of it? Like, what are you even talking about? It's silly to me. Like, it's not even a viable option. I think
if Catholicism isn't true, it's all false.
Exactly. That's literally what it is. It's like,
well, it's also a prideful argument because, like, subliminally behind the argument, if it's not doctrine and it's I don't like this guy because I feel like he's pushing like leftist social policy, it's like this is the height of pride. You're telling me that you're looking for this perfect church in the sense that there are actual experientially righteous, perfect people. When you show up to that place, you'll make it imperfect.
But the whole point of the church is so integral to the gospel, like that the church is the vehicle by which God converts the world. Like, I'm sorry, but it is the mechanism that God uses. There is not even like the slightest. But I have I don't know what would even be the word. Like, I have like a softness towards the East because I think things are so messy right now that people are just trying to find their own way.
You're definitely a little gay for the Ortho Bros.
Yeah, but the idea that that's the true church is just preposterous. I'm sorry. It's just a silly thing. I get people going there because that's the only place they can find sanity. But if you're saved there, it's not because you're there. It would be in spite of you being there. Like, it's not, I don't know. I just think that it is pretty crazy. And the things that we're talking about, like even Rob saying like sometimes he'll get stuck having to freaking go to some terrible liturgy because he has no choice to go. People have to do what they can to live a Christian life under the current circumstances. So I kind of I have sympathy for it, right? I mean, I hate that I have to drive 2 hours to go to church sometimes. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes a little less. But it's, you got to make some sacrifices right now. It is what it is. And I'm fully confident that God is going to intervene before. But I really do think we're coming to that point where it's going to look like all hope is lost. And then God will intervene and you'll go, this is very clearly God intervening. It will be unmistakable.
Or like, I mean, the thing is that you might be very surprised. Like, we might legitimately just get a pretty decent pope next, and life goes on. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we do feel like there is supposed to be some crescendo, but my point is that on God's timeline, not our timeline, things can be very, very different.
I think that is like hopeful optimism, but I don't think it's reality in any way, because things
it's of course a reality, because my point is, it's like, if God is the one who's ultimately like going to will whatever is going to take place into effect, then it's going to be an option. Like through man's eyes, like we can see everything as hopeless.
It's just not how God operates through typically, though, is all I'm saying. Like God
it's kind of operated that way for the last 2,000 years.
Well, what I'm saying is, when they're this bad, he likes the dramatic miracle type situation. It's not good. Look, the things are, you look at the current crop of hierarchy and how rotten they all are. It's going to take more than just a good pope getting in there. It's going to take generations of clergy learning to actually live the Catholic faith out like they did before this lax morals and lax practices. Like, it's just so lax. You would need, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I just think we need something a little more than just a good pope.
Yeah, and I see the argument. I don't think it's a bad argument. I just think that in a way, like, if you go back and read church history, like, it's more, I would say, easy to see laxity here, there, and everywhere in church history, because it's like when St. Pius V showed around, it was pretty lax. Like when St. Alphonsus showed up to his diocese, it was really, really lax. So the church is really filled with it. Hey, thanks, Laura.
So that's my point. They thought it was lax. That's my point.
No, it was, because back then,
nothing
especially
compared to what it is now.
Not in one sense. So we see everything.
I'm not saying the world's ending. I'm saying something.
You say it all the time.
I know the world's ending, but I'm just saying it's not that I'm saying it now.
My point, like, we see it visibly because of the internet here, there, and everywhere. But I'm saying, like, if you go back and read history about why, like, Luther's movement picked up so much steam, it was because it was very common to see concubines with the priest. It was very common to have these guys running around saying fake pig Latin and forcing people to give money.
Even during Henry VIII's reign, right? Like, all of those cardinals and stuff would have side pieces. You know, they'd have
people knew it and they saw it, and that's my point. Is it's like,
maybe you're right.
Maybe
you're right,
because it's like, and so my point is just, God might just be like, the reason I'm optimistic is, like, look how many people were baptized. Like, so many hundreds of thousands of people baptized.
I think God is still converting hearts dramatically. But what I'm saying is, even the times you're describing, yes, there were priests who maybe had a concubine and things like that, and maybe even cardinals and stuff like that. But the Catholic faith was still being preached and taught. And they weren't trying to justify what they were doing. What we have now is a crop of men who are not just on Grindr, but they're suing Grindr because they let their private information out. Like, there's absolutely no repentance for this. It's like him angry that he got caught. He's not repentant because he got caught. For sure.
But my point is, it's like, is that all of them? Because the thing is that on the one hand, like, we can say, yeah, there's a lot of bad people that are inside of those positions. But also at the same time, like, there are a lot of good people who are there who, yes, I will agree with you 1,000%, ill-formed. But I think a lot of people still have a good heart whenever they're trying to, like, push forward something. And so that's my point. It's like, I think we might be surprised. We very well might have a horrible pope, but I'm also optimistic that we're seeing a lot of Catholics, like the amount of Catholics I'm seeing online right now, saying, all right, let's pray, let's do penance, like, let's focus in these 3 weeks so that we try to really get a good pope. I'm like, you don't think God's going to honor that? Like, God can move in amazing ways.
I'm not saying he won't. I just think what we are seeing is part of salvation history right now. Like, I think what we're witnessing is not just, like, I just think everything from the council to the Pope putting his tiara down, all of it, like the infiltration of the older brother into our liturgy, all of it. I just think we're well beyond the oh man, maybe we could I just don't think that's where we're at. I mean, you guys could disagree with me. You guys could say I'm a doom pill. I don't care. I know what I say.
I have hours upon hours of I told you so video when your predictions go wrong.
Okay. I don't think I'm gonna be. I'll still double down on it, man. Hey, not for nothing, I'd rather you guys not send super chats for Rob's car. I think we should set something up separately for Rob's car.
No. I don't need a GoFundMe for. No, I'll be fine.
You'll be fine?
Yes, I'll be fine.
You sure? All right. All right, you guys can super chat away, and I'll take half his money because I'm not. I gotta put new windows in the house, so.
I guess here's my point. Like, I don't.
You guys are very generous. I'm sorry, Nick.
Yes, I do.
You guys are very generous. Thank you very much.
You guys are good. Like, I think that like, yeah, you're right. Like, we see all these crazy things taking place, but it really could legitimately be. So, like, all these things could have happened, and the crescendo moment is all these young people coming into the church. You know what I'm saying? Like, that could be the highlight of the story. Because think of it. Just let me give you one analogy.
Young little whippersnapper.
Let me give you one good analogy.
Hope. You're like, you look at Obama 08.
If you were a Jew in the year circa 33 AD.
Hold on, everyone, clip that for his future political campaign.
You're a Jew in circa 380 AD. You're your age, etc. You are looking for a Messiah to come and destroy all the enemies of God, i.e., the Romans. And yet, what was the whole mission of Christ? It was personal sin. It was actual sin that was the problem. It wasn't the Romans. It was the actual sin. And that's my point.
This is a terrible analogy, by the way. I'm gonna chew you alive with it, but go ahead.
No, go for it. But here's my point: is that the point that Christ came wasn't to rewrite a political ship per se. It was to get man to become holy. And my point is that maybe what we've seen, or what we will see, is that a lot of these people are coming into the church. Things will end up becoming holy in order, and then we might just have a semi-normal pope. Like, it may not be that off the wall or that insane.
Let me tell you that.
What's a semi-normal pope, though?
Yeah, like,
because like JP2 wasn't a semi-normal pope.
I gotta destroy his analogy,
right?
Here, though.
Yeah, go for it.
I gotta destroy your analogy for a second here, because you're like, imagine you're a Jew in 33 AD, and you want this. Okay, great. But you're missing the point that the Messiah did come, and God had to come and fix the situation because it was so bad. And that's what I'm telling you needs to happen. I'm not saying God needs to come in the flesh,
I mean, to be
but
fair,
there needs to, dude, it is, it's not me doom pilling. It's look at the situation, man. Like, things are horrific on the whole level of society, everything. Like, something needs to happen. I appreciate the optimism, and I could be wrong. I mean, this is, I'm just shooting the crap with my three friends, but I see everything that has happened over the course of the past 75 years, and I see that as the crescendo building up to this big moment that God is going to intervene. That's how I see it. I could be wrong, obviously, and you could be right, but
yeah, no, and I'm not against any of that. It's a totally valid position. My point is just, I want people to hope and not black pill.
But it's not a black pill. I don't see why you guys think that's a black pill.
It's not a black pill. For you,
it's not a black pill if God intervenes. I'm not talking about the rapture.
No, I understand that. I'm saying for you it's not, but I'm saying, like, the amount
Why do
of
we have
people...
to make everything about color? Can't we just not see color, guys?
So true. All right, we'll go to something.
Where's the black pill gonna stab me at a track meet?
I just love that Nick's a hope and change Obama kid. Like, that's what I think of him in this conversation.
I don't see why people. Yeah, I don't see why people like. Yeah, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's just like, here. I guess this is my point. I think we're in agreement. I believe that God can. We both believe that God can do great things. That can write straight with crooked lines. But the way I just choose to look at it is, I prefer to go into a situation expecting that God is good and will give something good for the people who are coming in and for the people who've striven and fought for it. And I understand why some people.
Oh, never mind. I can't say that.
Don't hold that position. That's totally cool. But.
Well, the thing is, God bringing those people into the church is a good in itself. And those people that God's preparing their hearts, like, I mean, we all pray for martyrdom, right? Like you really, like, the suffering doesn't, the things that we've even suffered through thus, like, up to this point, have really not been much. I mean, unless you're living in Nigeria and where, like, those poor people are actually being persecuted, like what we've experienced in the Western world is really just people making a mockery of Jesus Christ in front of us. And what do you throw me off?
Rob,
I never know what he's laughing at. I'm like, he just stopped me dead in my track. Okay, yeah, you can't put that up.
Yeah, I know. It's hilarious though. Good one, Tommy.
You can't put that one up. Now I know why you just stopped. You stopped me in my tracks. Okay, so man, I just lost my whole train of thought. Yeah, the things that we've dealt with in the West have more just been probably most of our pride in being Catholic, right? And you see people making light of our faith, people mocking Jesus Christ, people, especially Protestants, see somebody like a liberal Pope come in, and you're just like, man, I want to defend this stuff, but like we look silly trying to defend a faith that the hierarchy isn't even presenting anymore. But the point is that we haven't really endured any real suffering in the West.
It's just been a purification of the sheepfold. It's the naysayers have left long ago, and those who are truly like saying like, let's sit down and actually ask myself the question, why am I Catholic? They're the ones that by God's grace are still here.
Well, I really do think what that radio address that Pope Benedict gave, remember when we read through his radio address? Like,
That was wonderful.
I think
the Regensburg address.
No, that was a good one too, though.
Okay,
I'm talking about
I
the radio address from the 60s where he talks about the church. We should do the Regensburg address one day, though. We should go through that one day. But I'm talking about where he talks about, look, the church is going to lose her social privilege. Like that's the trajectory I see the church in right now, right? So I do think there's a good chance we might get a good pope next, but that is not going to be good for the church in the West in the way most people would think it is. No, it would be good for the faithful Catholics because we'll at least have a father again, but it's going to mean torment on the church from the world, right?
Exactly, because the only way logically that Benedict's, if you want to call it a prophecy, would come true. Thank you, House.
Thank you very much.
But like the only way for that to logically come forward would be is if we do have a good and holy pope to where all of the social privileges in the liberal countries of the West, like the classical liberal countries, go away. So you lose all of the church buildings, you lose all of the or you're hyper regulated. You can't do anything outside of a church building. You can't do any type of public witness or processions or ministries or shows or whatever. Like that's the only way for it to make any type of sense. That's why I'm saying like it might surprise us. Like what?
Maybe we aren't even disagreeing though.
We might not be disagreeing.
My point is that I don't think getting a good pope means everything's fixed. I think getting a good pope could have the opposite.
Yeah, I agree with
you. Like it's going to mean persecution. Like I've said this before, but the reason the world has been so gentle on us is because you have Francis in there. So they see the church moving in a trajectory more towards their opinion, right? So it's like Francis is blessing gay unions, whether he is or isn't. Like that's what they see. They see Francis is open to, talking about climate change, and we got to do. So they see the church moving in a very specific direction. If the church does a U-turn, you're going to see major tumult in the church. Like it's going to be schism, and it's going to be chaos and mayhem. And that's what I mean by it would take like a dramatic act of God to show the world that the church is the church. Like, I don't know how that plays out. None of us do. We're just kind of, prognosticating on things that we don't really know, but I don't see it as, a Pius X comes in, gets rid of all the cardinals who are against this, and it's like, oh, we fixed this and we get them. That's it. The Catholic Church is bad. It's just never going to happen that way.
I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, for instance, if you were to get a pizza balla in there, you would have some situation where it would be, you'd clearly have you'd have some reform. So you'd probably toss TC because that's just universally not liked. You'd see some stuff when it comes to like some doctrinal ambiguities get picked up, but you may not see the full on, hey, I'm going to take the Swiss Guard and we're going to go room by room inside of every single office in Rome and haul out all the people, et cetera, et cetera. You're not going to see that, but yeah, it's beautiful.
So I don't know how I feel about the warning. Like I do think it's possible because I've had an illumination of conscience myself. But the way they describe it, like, and you don't know if that's actually what was told to the children, or if it's kind of like the game of telephone where the message that gets distilled to us 3 generations later is, oh, the whole world is just going to be stopped, and pilots will be flying in the sky and time will stop and every person on earth will have an illumination of conscience at the same time. Like, God's never done anything like that in all of history, but it's possible.
Is Garabandal?
It's not approved. It's not approved.
That was my question. Yeah,
but it's not. It's also. I don't know if it's. I don't know if they condemned it either.
Okay,
I don't think they made a pronouncement.
I think the local bishops have.
The local bishops have condemned it. So this is where I'll put my scholastic hat on because it's the one thing I'm useful for. But it's when it comes to private revelations that are even condemned on a local level and haven't been superseded by the Holy See, this would be where you're borderlining, if not getting into a sin against the virtue of faith, because you're falling into what's called the sin of essentially like superstition, getting involved when it comes to these, but in the context of some type of faith claim. So you have to be really careful about this. This is why I honestly, I pretty much avoid most private revelations.
I just think it's funny that Adrian is a charismatic. Okay, so he never parted the Red Sea until he did. That's correct. But God does do things in like typological fashion, right? So no, he didn't part the Red Sea, but he flooded the earth. So like the flooding of the earth was the first baptism. The Red Sea was another form of baptism. And then all of those prefigure actual baptism. And I mean, you could go to the scriptures and they actually say that. Peter says that, right? So yes. I don't see any kind of prefigurement of a worldwide illumination of conscience like that. I just have never seen anything like that. But like you said, could happen.
That would be really be really weird, honest. So when they say the worldwide illumination, do they mean that like what do they mean by that?
Every individual on earth will have like time is going to essentially stop and everybody will see themselves the way God sees them. Some people will die of a heart attack because they'll be in shock at what their soul looks like. Some people will be in joy, pure joy, because they're in a state of grace and whatever. But like it'll be one final chance for people to repent.
That doesn't seem to compute with the majority opinion of the saints, because it's like if the majority opinion of the saints is most souls don't go to heaven, then logic would dictate if you saw God, like if you saw yourself,
you still have free will though.
You still have free will, but see, here's the thing: it's like if you had total illumination of conscience and everybody around you also did.
That's how it kind of takes away your free will. Now, Nick. Okay, Garabandal, like supernatural events. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, that was pretty much it. It was just like I just don't see how like people all wouldn't do mass conversions at that point.
So Garabandal could, like, supernatural events could have happened there, but that doesn't mean like the that's what I'm trying to say. Like the message that gets distilled to the masses after that could be very different from what Our Lady actually said, because there is some very interesting things that happen in Garabandal. Like this video of it too, the girls walking backwards up steps inside. It's pretty interesting.
Walking backwards up steps is
like without, I don't know. Like there's pictures.
I mean, I can do that barely, but
the girl receiving from an angel, but that doesn't make sense either, right? Shouldn't it be a priest that? I don't know. I'm not gonna get. I know people are very. I know people get very upset if you're
they
not
get touchy with
their
their
apparition.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but
kind of weird.
You know what? Let's just piss everyone off today. Garabandal, not true. Medjugorje, not true. Ha! Now everyone's pissed.
Pope Francis, what's your verdict? Yeah, I don't know. I would never go as far as to say that. I don't think I would go as far as to say something like that. I don't know, man. Like, I think a lot of these things, when they make predictions and they don't come true, though, like, because there were supposed to be some predictions that were made at Garabandal, it didn't happen. Same thing with Medjugorje. Like, there's supposed to be these signs at the top of the mountain, but like if these things never come to pass, it's like kind of invalidates things. But I don't know. I never like studied Garabandal enough. What I do know is that the church did give Fatima the thumbs up.
Church did give that a Fatima. What I was going to say, I can address that actually, Anthony, and then this question, this statement. So the church, what the church does is it says this: if it even approves an apparition, you're not required to have a devotion to that apparition, but you are supposed to give assent of intellect and will to it because it's the church who's approved it. However, if the church hasn't approved it and you've had local bishops disapprove it, then you would be committing potentially a sin against the first commandment if, of course, you were knowingly and willingly engaging in that. But when it comes to the question, the saints are not infallible, I never claimed that the saints like just because a saint said it's infallible. What I'm saying is that a majority opinion of the scholastics has said equivocally that most people don't go to heaven. And while that's not infallible or of the faith, because it's not an absolute unanimity, it's something that you would at least give a pious deference to, because they are doctors of the church, and we should have that deference toward the doctors of the church and toward those who have been canonized. Because especially in the old canonization process, that means that their theology is sound and safe. And so that's why I'm saying, if the majority are saying this, and our Lord seems to indicate this in the New Testament, you know, we have to take that in consideration.
Yeah, I think especially when you get consensus of the fathers, but yeah, like if I mean, typically you'll have the saints kind of in agreement about things, and that's how you kind of come to a consensus on things. But I don't know. Look, this wasn't supposed to be an apparition show. Like this was supposed to just be a reflection on the last 12 years, right? The last 12 years. I've seen tons of conversions, including Nick.
Mm-hmm.
I myself, I have a real roller coaster ride through this pontificate, because I had the Catholic faith when Francis became Pope, and I was driven away by some of the nonsense, and I stopped attending the sacraments. I never wasn't Catholic, but I stopped going to Mass because I had just like gone through a phase of I just can't take it anymore. So I left the sacraments. Now, in that period when I left the sacraments, my whole life fell apart. Like, was on the verge of divorce. That's how bad it got. And not really, but like me and my wife are at a very difficult part in our relationship. So, but then I come back under him because I find tradition. Like, if it wasn't for finding the traditional Mass, I don't know how I would have coped over the past 12 years. And I don't think I would have found tradition without Francis. Like, because Summorum Pontificum was out long before Francis, and I never had attended a Latin Mass. It was because of Francis that I found tradition. So there are things that happened under this papacy that they were good. You talk about God writing straight with crooked lines, and God bringing good from evil. So all the evils that we think came under this past 12 years can work for good.
Yeah. And like this is like unpopular, but like, again, as much of a critic as I am, there were many things that Pope Francis did do good that was not reported.
Yeah,
like that's why I was
all right, but Nick,
one-dimensional. We can't make him ever one-dimensional. I'm not saying that I'm not justifying literally anything he said. I can give plenty of examples, but I'm saying that like we always have to recognize that it's like every single person at least does do some good. You can at least appreciate.
And like when Francis would say things like, going to, getting an abortion is like hiring a hitman, like that. Yes, he said some very good things, right? But when somebody
the doctor joined them.
But when somebody's shifting things like him throwing the occasional bone, it's like, well, if I don't know, man, I'm worried about where the papacy stands in a lot of our minds. Like I've seen, I'll even say this, like I saw how Eric Sammons runs Crisis Magazine, and he was a papal critic for a while, and then he decided he was no longer going to do that. So he made an announcement, and Eric stopped doing that, right? And then the day Francis dies, Eric comes back out, and he's swinging at Francis again. And then I watched Eric's show today, and he was like saying how one of the good things that came from Francis is Catholics kind of put the papacy back in its proper order, because after Vatican I, there was a spirit of Vatican I where hyper-papalism came a little too crazy. But I don't know, man. I think if you have a good pope, like there's nothing wrong with hyper-papalism. It's when you're dealing with leftist revolutionaries, it's like, I don't know. This is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there's a zillion and one theories. That's why, like, what I'm afraid of is, let's say we were to, just for sake of analogy, get Cardinal Sarah in there, right? Get Cardinal Sarah in there, and it's just amazing and all that. I'm afraid that because of like the damage that again, like rightly we can say Pope Francis did to the image of the papacy amongst the faithful, that there are going to always be Catholics who just have no reverence of even just speech for the office.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm trying to do tonight. Like I'm not trying to explain away what he's done. I'm not trying to be
yeah, I don't want to lose reverence for the office.
Exactly, because it's like because here's the thing, is it's like I could damn myself to hell by like dragging in the mud the institution which Christ like set up to save me. On the other end of it, I don't do a service to people by trying to explain bad things away.
Yeah.
And so it's like I have to be like, this is a situation where whomever is next, you could be right, Anthony. It's like it could be a really bad situation. We pray not, but like hopefully people put their hopefully the big thing that we should have all got out of this, and you got out of this because you went through this, was like we have to prioritize our spiritual life. Like as you left, and then it was the witness of your son that brought you back, and through the witness of the TLM changed your life.
Yeah, and it was also it also showed me how stable my life is with the sacraments. Like the instability of living a non-liturgical life is what kind of threw me into chaos. And then coming back to the sacraments brought this stability to my life. Look, all the things I'm saying, even about the past 12 years and about Francis, I went to Italy in December and sat for a papal audience. There was still something like, wow, papal audience, like that's the Roman pontiff. You know what I mean? There was still something about that was just pretty amazing just to be there, right? So yeah, I don't want to lose reverence for the office.
Because I want to eventually get back to the point where, and it's like obviously, Pope Francis wouldn't have wanted this, but it's like, yeah, I want to get back to the point where it's like, the people come into the room and he's being carried around on a litter, obviously, like with the mitre on, the papal crown, and then you have like, the bishops, they come and kiss his slippers. Like that might seem over the top, but it's like if he is the successor of St. Peter, the vicar of Christ on earth, and he owns that and has that responsibility both interiorly and exteriorly, then it's like all of us would be lining up hopefully to do that. But then you'll of course have the people, because they've been so scandalized that are just going to sit back and commit sins against the 8th commandment.
Yeah, I think okay, so the reason I like Pizza Balla is,
other than the name, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, but it is because I don't think we get anywhere with any pope that is unwilling to discuss the events of World War II.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
I don't see it happening.
Yeah. No, and it's like what you guys did a phenomenal show with Christian. I think I totally just forgot, but I was gonna message you both, and your guys' show with Christian, I think was one of the best shows you guys have ever done. It was really, really well, and it's one of those conversations where I was curious after the show. I went and looked up. The question was something like, "What is by age demographic and party affiliation the support for the state of Israel?" And I found this. I think it was a Pew Research poll. It was a Gallup poll, and it was even amongst people on the right wing, right? Between 18 and 49, over 50% is against the state of Israel, right? All the left wings were, way out, like 80, 90%. The only demographic in the United States that is still pro-Israel, right, is if you're conservative and over the age of 60. That's the only group left.
Yeah, but it's not just about support for Israel, though. It's so much
no, I agree.
It is just so much
one
deeper
example.
than that. This is a fundamental problem that it has been destructive in our liturgy. It has been destructive in the way we approach ecumenism. All of this comes down to that. Like all the things that we've been complaining about come down to that issue. Like they just do. And I don't see anybody, and even the guys that we like, I don't see any of them talking about this issue. I just don't. And I don't think you can fix what's wrong unless you address that issue, and it has to be done with charity. It has to be done with love.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens because I just see all men who are afraid to even have the conversation.
Pizza Balla might have it though, but
he's been on the ground there and he's seen it.
Exactly. But to Rob's point in the beginning, if he might have a short pontificate because he's openly said that the state shouldn't exist.
He wears the Palestinian flag around his neck.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, he He would be the closest, but he might not live that long.
Yeah, but like even the fact that we would say something like that, it's like I don't know, man. I don't know how this. Look, this is. I know you guys think I'm blackpilling, but all of this is all connected to me. Like it's just I see all these things kind of just coming together, and I think that it's I don't see any way around it. I don't know.
The abomination of desolation will be is you'll walk into the Vatican and no longer will be the Eucharist. It'll be a bunch of gefilte fish on the altar. Like, what the heck is going on?
Now, do you want to go through some of the cardinals?
No.
No. Hey, you know what I saw that was interesting? Pope Francis's last will and testament, talking about where he wants his body to be entombed and stuff. So he writes, in the name of the most holy Trinity, amen. As I sense the approaching twilight of my earthly life and with firm hope in eternal life, I wish to set out my final wishes solely regarding the place of my burial. Throughout my life and during my ministry as a priest and bishop, I have always entrusted myself to the Mother of our Lord, the Blessed Virgin Mary. For this reason, I ask that my mortal remains rest awaiting the day of the resurrection in the Papal Basilica of St. Mary Major. He kind of goes through, all right, so I wish my final earthly journey to end precisely in this ancient Marian sanctuary where I would always stop to pray at the beginning and end of every apostolic journey, confidently entrusting my intentions to the Immaculate Mother and giving thanks for her gentle and maternal care. Like, I feel like this whole papacy, the one thing that was majorly missing was this devotion to Our Lady. I remember John Paul II had this like really deep devotion to Our Lady. Benedict too. But under Francis, it was just always about reaching out to other things. And it was like, I feel like if he would have focused more on that, maybe it's because we're stuck in our echo chamber where we only hear the controversial stuff. And I wasn't following what he was saying every single day and stuff. Maybe that's what it is. But the stuff that hits the mainstream is the stuff that actually matters, because that's what the world is absorbing, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Well, that's partially why like I make some of our audience mad, because it's like I'm trying to think outside the bubble sometimes because I want to like pursue truth. I don't remember any. He might have an encyclical on it. I don't remember any encyclicals, but I do remember a few times hearing some sermons of his where he talked just some of those beautiful words about Our Lady. I do remember some of those. I do remember some of the processions that he had. But again, I wasn't Catholic under Benedict. I wasn't really around for most of JP2, obviously. So it's not a ton to compare it to, I guess, for me.
Oh man. You guys in the audience have anything you guys want us to address?
I had one question that was directed for me, and I can just answer it like in 10 seconds. It was just a person who asked me, Nick, what is your thoughts about UD, University of Dallas? I'm going to be going to visit soon. It's a pretty cool school. There's a lot of cool Dominican teachers, a lot of cool professors there. If you're wanting to learn Thomistic theology, fairly good. I would just say one note, which would be if you do go up there and study theology, always consult the commentators of St. Thomas's Summa, and don't fall into the error of being a Thomisian where you just have the Summa in yourself and think you know everything.
Oh, there was one other thing at the Easter Vigil. Man, why didn't I freaking save it? Oh man, there's so when you go to the Easter Vigil, they take you through like the high points of salvation history. So you start in Genesis and then you go into the Exodus, and there's a point where Moses is on his deathbed and Joshua is about to take the Israelites into the promise, and they're not even Israelites yet, right?
You could call it the children of Israel because Israel's Jacob. So
yeah. Okay, so Joshua's going to take them in, and Moses is giving his last will and testament, and he's just so freaking frustrated with them. He's like, you people, I know your heart of heart. If you're doing this while I'm still here, how much more when I'm gone? Write this down, because I know you stubborn bastards are not going to do it. And it's like, man, I was just like, as they were reading through these readings, I was just looking up at the cross, and I'm just like, they are such a stubborn people, Lord. Your people are really stubborn, and they always were stubborn. And it is just, there's something about when somebody is hardened of heart and their inability to see their own sin, right? So when you have John the Baptist is baptizing and everyone's coming to get baptized, this is the reason why you can't see the kingdom unless you're born of water and spirit, because the people that come to get baptized are repenting of their sins. So there's something in them that they have a softness in their heart. They're repenting of their sins. But those who didn't get baptized are like, what's going on here? And they have a hardness of heart, and they can't actually see the kingdom because they won't acknowledge that they are not that they're sinful, right? They think they're righteous. And it's just something that persists until this day. And you see it in all the conversations that are going on about this question of Israel. And it's like, there's not an ounce of self-reflection of, what is actually happening over in the Middle East over there. There's not an ounce of self-reflection where it's like, all right, people are not liking what we're doing. Maybe we should change up a little bit. None of that. It's just double down on the propaganda. All of it. It's because there's this hardness of heart that comes over people when they're unwilling to see that they might be guilty of something. And it's not just Jews. It's all people. Like when people are stubborn because I've been having these arguments with one of my siblings because they've left the sacraments and they read the Bible. Like they're basically Protestant at this point, like they still think they're Catholic, but they're essentially Protestant. And it's like, anytime I try to say anything to this person, they just shut down and they won't even hear it because they don't like what they're hearing, because it's a bit convicting in the way they're living their life.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's you can rightly affirm both truths. Like I got in trouble this week because I was in this chat and I was talking about how, it's good that we're like, you wouldn't have even had 5 years ago, Father Maudsley going on and talking about like differences between pre-55, Good Friday, and 62 and 69, etc. And I mentioned, though, at the end of like this conversation, I said, one thing though I think we should be careful about is, we're in Holy Week. It's good to talk about this stuff for theology, history, but we shouldn't become so obsessed with it where we forget also at the same time, and it is our sins that we should be meditating upon this week, just doing kind of a pious reflection. And the guy got like so mad, but it was a good reminder because it's like we live in a society where, let's just be honest, our Lord talks about in John 3, it's like they hate the light and they don't come to the light because they see their deeds are evil. So it's like those people in the time of Christ, right, aside from the elect, right, they did not go to Christ. They hated Christ because he was calling out their evil deeds. And that can be the same for us. Like the St. Andrew's Missal has this really good reflection where it says, when you look at all the people who killed Christ, we can find all the major sins. It's like Judas. He was a covetous person. That's what St. Thomas Aquinas says. Through covetousness, he betrayed our Lord. Herod was a lustful fiend, right? And he handed him over to the people. Pilate was weak and prideful, right? And it's like all of us can do all of these things. So you can rightly affirm there is this historical, not just in the first century, but continuing on, enmity between older and younger brother. And at the same time affirm, yeah, my sins are an issue that put our Lord upon the cross. And like, Lord, help me not to be a reprobate, where my heart gets hardened.
Yeah, no, it's it just is interesting that these conversations are happening now, where like we never would have heard them before. Mm-hmm. It's just I don't know, they're going to be front and center soon, I think. So all right, so we all are going to be talking quite a bit going forward because we have a conclave coming up. Like this is going to be pretty nuts. So Wednesday, I am going on Joe McLean in the morning. Then I have 3 shows on this channel. So keep your eyes open on Wednesday. Wednesday, there will be a lot of streaming going on. I don't think we're going to do a members only show this week. We're going to see how the news plays out. If something big happens, we'll jump on. And we're just going to play it by ear. And I think that's it. Rob, you got any final thoughts? You've been pretty quiet.
Nope. All good.
Yeah. All right, guys. So this was this was an interesting day, and we'll see how things play out over the course of the next couple of weeks. So, how long is it before they call the actual conclave?
It has to be at least 9 days, but probably longer.
Yeah, 9 days of mourning, and then they have 15 days to get there, if memory's right. I think it's like 15 days to get there, and then they vote.
So
it's like 20. It's going to be like 3 weeks. And like,
when is the funeral?
Has to wait 9 days.
Yeah, it's at the end of the 9-day period.
So there's a 9-day mourning period.
Yeah.
Then they have what, a 1-day funeral, 3-day funeral? They have, like, how does that go?
Probably it will be like one official day of funeral, and then there'll probably be before it days where the faithful can come in and pay their respects before him. So, but watch, I guarantee you guys, it's probably going to be a much better funeral than.
Wait a minute, exclusive. Cardinal Joseph Zen of Hong Kong is challenging the decision communicated to the cardinals in a letter earlier today to hold the first meeting.
Hours ago.
So I didn't see this. To hold the first meeting of the general congregations of the College of Cardinals tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in the Vatican. His short statement, just sent to me for immediate release, states Cardinal Zen would like to know why the first session of the general congregations has to start so early. How are the old men from the peripheries supposed to arrive on time? There is the kind word in the letter reminding them that they are not obliged to attend, but do they have the right to do so? Yes or no? So basically, they're calling a meeting and not giving time to all the other people to get
not
there.
Really, because nothing can really be done in the Vatican right now without the College of Cardinals. So this is more about continual governance of the Vatican than it is about the conclave.
You don't think it's about conversations to start?
I mean, maybe. It very well could be. I mean, most of these cardinals haven't met. The last time the full college met was in 2015 or something like that. So
that is a really weird thing that Francis did. Like, he stopped allowing they're supposed to know each other so that they know who the next cardinal they want to elect is, and there's been like this wall of silence up. So, Todd, you think these conversations have already happened? Like, do we think the next conclave is already like? Because
is there another
St. Gallen mafia? Yeah, is there a St. Gallen mafia?
I don't think there was ever. I don't think they ever stopped.
Is the CIA doing what they can to manipulate things right now? Like, I think you'll see this time that we didn't see in times past is guys like Cardinal Zen speaking up.
Yeah, way more scrutiny. Scrutiny with the cardinals, scrutiny with the media, scrutiny with people like us.
Dude, I don't know. This could get crazy.
Yeah, we could honestly get some like pretty laughable, off the wall stuff come out.
This could get crazy, and like it could end up not like there could be a very long interregnum. They definitely have a group chat.
Think of all the different group chats out there.
They all speak in Latin because they're just like the Holy Father won't know.
Well, maybe they'll add a leftist reporter in on their Telegram chat.
So true.
Like the Trump administration did. Oh no, Tommy! Tommy said it's a Grindr group chat.
Have a little.
Guys, give us material. We don't have to jump off yet. If you guys want us to keep going, I don't know. Rob's falling asleep on me. Nick's afraid to say anything controversial now.
So true.
Let's see. I'll find some stuff to talk about.
I was like, I can tell you some cool.
See, this is the kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff that drives me. All right, go ahead, Nick. You can go.
No, you go for it. Go for it. You're passionate about something. Go for it.
So, Patrick Neve, whatever his name is, Pope Francis was a holy man. You
can I could not stand that tweet.
You can't deny it. Some of his decisions were imprudent, but holiness is not equal to prudence. And even then, who am I to judge his decisions? God gave me this is the kind of
in the same tweet. He says you can't judge his soul. Oh, but he's holy for sure.
Shut up. This is what we would always talk about, where it's like, well, it was just imprudent. Well, it was just imprudent. Well, it was just imprudent. Like at a certain point, you saying every single thing the Pope does being imprudent, like you're kind of calling him retarded. Like that's not.
Well,
fair
yeah,
either. Like that's not.
Imprudence is
that's imprudent.
Yeah, and
Nicole, my wife just gave me a look.
Imprudence is generally sinful, right? I mean, imprudence is a virtue, so it's like that line doesn't really work for me. But then also it goes back to that line where it's like, fool me once, shame on me, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So it's like if you continue to see a lot of these repeated actions, this is why you saw a lot of people like Salmons who in the beginning were like, yeah, I'm going to try to defend him, give him some time to like adjust to the office of the papacy, maybe just doesn't know how to speak properly in front of the world. And then 9 years later, 10 years later, 12 years later, you're like, okay, well, I don't know, guys. Just
Nick, I'm just I miss
like
the old
I
Nick.
tell people all the time.
I miss the old Nick. I don't
the old Nick.
I miss the old Nick. Had a little fire to him, and
no. Like I am passionate about stuff, but see, here's the thing. Like the old Nick had so many sinful problems with him that none of you need to know. It's between me, God, and the confessor. It'll be revealed on the last day, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. But like
I'll be too busy going through Anthony's list on that last day. Don't worry.
But I'm just like as I've said before, I have not changed any of my views. But what I am doing is I'm wanting to listen to our Lord, because my salvation is what I am made for. I'm made to be in union with Christ. And so maybe I don't come on here and I'm like spitting fire and I'm angry.
I'm just teasing you, by the way.
No, you may be teasing, but it's like I don't know if other people are, but it's like, I want to be saved. Like I want to be in union with Christ.
New Nick. A lot of people say the new Nick is better. Wait, what did you do, Ro?
Anthony's obsession with the world ending is like a midlife crisis, but instead of a Corvette, he's buying 3 Days of Darkness prep kit.
That's funny.
Let me tell you something. I bought I did buy like a whole bunch of beeswax candles, and I had them blessed by a priest. My wife just lit them as if they were just normal candles. And I'm like, where are all the beeswax
Anthony's
candles?
last words, Nicole, this is your fault.
Yeah, no, I'm like, where are all the beeswax candles? She goes, I don't know. I just lit them. I like them. I'm like, Nicole,
you're like, they're not even scented. Why would you do that?
No, but Rob, if you knew, we went to this parish, and the priest was like blessing everybody's stuff. Like he had a very specific thing after mass. It was like, I'm going to bless everybody's stuff. Now, when you go, we have to talk about this connected too. So when you go to one of these things, what you get is the women like push you out of the way to get their stuff blessed.
Yeah, and it's literally everything they have.
Every single thing they have, and they will push you out of the way because they want their stuff blessed, and they don't give a crap if anybody else gets anything blessed.
It's also how they operate in the confession line.
This is a problem. We have to.
I had a lady come up to me this week, and she was a sweet old lady, and she was just like, "Do you want to be a priest?" I was like, I don't want to counsel old ladies in the confessional every single day for hours, because if it was just straight up giving moral theology, okay, that's cool, but that's not what it is. So I say this in love to all the ladies out there: be short, quick, and specific, and then move on.
My wife constantly insists on eating our emergency food for fun. Wives are so funny. No, so listen. So we go to the Vigil on Saturday, and there's, oh man, I gotta be careful because I don't know who watches the show, but dude, we're
an hour and 23 minutes, and they're not watching. The
militant women sit on the ends of the aisle, which is fine. I get people want to sit on the ends of the aisle. They don't let you in, and they give you dirty looks if you want to get. And it's like, you think you're taking the entire aisle? Yeah. Like, what? I don't understand. And like, there was a woman who very easily, like, I had to sit separate. Me and my wife had to sit separate from my daughters because this one woman was so mad that me and my wife had to get in, but she could have just taken the row in front of her.
Yeah, Anthony, those women definitely turned off the video when you said you for the first time.
Yeah, you'd be surprised, dude. When I leave Holy Innocents, a lot of times it's like older women that come up to me. They're like, "I watch your show." One of them said to my wife, she goes, "Oh, you don't look anything like I expected," and my wife was like, What
the
what? I believe in Saint Lidwina. Lidwina. Let's put it on screen, right? It's a super chat. I believe Saint Lidwina in the Passion of the Church is an appropriate metaphor for the juncture the church is living through. I don't know that.
So Saint Lidwina is the patron saint for those who suffer chronic pain.
Oh, gotcha.
So this family member I was telling you about earlier, they thought Aunt's wife was African. Like, well, I said to my wife, I go, she probably thought like I had like some, guinea brat as a wife, something like a Marissa Tomei type, My wife's like, oh, so I'm not Marissa Tomei. Like, you're blonde. Like, what are you
there's
talking
nothing
about?
you could have said there that would have been good.
So, oh wait, what was I just gonna say? Oh, with one of my siblings, we were watching The Passion together, and like the beginning where the devil is like talking to Christ in the garden. She's like, this isn't in the Bible. I'm like, okay, not like exactly like that. I'm like, these are the visions of Saint Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich, and I'm trying to explain it, well, this isn't in the Bible. I'm like, oh my gosh, all right, it's not in the Bible. All right, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it gets very, very.
But you should have been like, do you think Jesus was nailed to the cross? Yes. Well, that's not in the Bible, so I guess you're.
Well, that's what I said. I actually did. We had that conversation where I was like, well, if you actually go through the Gospels, the crucifixion isn't actually very detailed.
No, not at all.
Like, it really just says he went to the pillar, was scourged, and then he was crucified. Like, I mean, obviously more detailed than that, but it's not like what you see in the Passion is Blessed Anne Catherine Emmerich's vision.
It's not something they needed to be taught. Right?
No, because they all knew what crucifixion was. Yeah. So like you wanted to describe it in as little detail as possible because it was such a humiliating thing in itself. Like to even look upon somebody who was crucified, you'd be considered defiled, So
it's gonna be interesting. I mean, I've been thinking about this recently. I haven't seen it in forever, but I was sent this clip by a friend of mine of the Chosen's like latest season where Christ is cleansing the temple with like the whip and stuff, and I watched it and I was like fairly shocked at like I mean, especially nowadays I'm like, wow, yeah, this just would go over straight up quote unquote anti-Semitism by its hyper broad definition nowadays.
Which was this?
This was like the Chosen. Like, I mean, they have.
Whoa,
like,
whoa,
I was actually pretty surprised.
Oh, Chosen Nick is a step too far. I'm sorry.
Wait, so you went and saw it in the movie theater?
No. I was sent a clip from this by a friend.
Oh,
I was sent a clip on it through YouTube, and they just said, "What's your thoughts?" Because I haven't seen it since like 3 years ago, or whatever. And I was like, "Dang, I'm actually kind of surprised they like went this far with it." And I thought, are they gonna do the let his blood be upon us and upon our children? Like, you think they're gonna dare do that?
Mel
like
Gibson left it in verbally, but took the subtitles out.
That's right. Yeah.
I thought I heard that he didn't do that. That whoever did the subtitles did that without his knowledge.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought from pressure groups they took it out. I could be wrong, obviously,
and I could be wrong too. I don't know.
Verbally, it's in there. Let his blood be upon us and upon our children is in there verbally, but they took it out in the subtitles. Now, with The Chosen, we had played clips comparing The Chosen, Jesus of Nazareth, and the Gospel of John.
Yeah,
just showing how Jesus interacts with the Pharisees in The Chosen, and it's one of my least. It's like one of the things I hate the most about the show is how his interactions with the Pharisees are just appalling.
No, I agree. This is why this clip kind of was surprising to me, because like he looks like he's so there's like the high priest, he comes out in this scene, he like comes out of the temple. Christ is like pissed. He's like furious. You see the whip in his hand. He looks like he's straight up. He whips at one of the Pharisees, like just straight up whips at one of the Pharisees. And at the high priest, they like make the guy run back in because it looks like Christ is about to start attacking the high priest. I was like, dang, they're kind of
telling you the truth.
They're going off here.
So, oh man, I just lost my train of thought.
I did show Maddie. Well, so Maddie made it halfway through the Passion.
What? That's okay. So here's the thing. That's what we forgot to talk about when we had this conversation.
Bachelor.
How did he do with going through half of it? It was a little too much for him.
So we made it through the scourging at the pillar. Actually, we made it through the crowning with thorns, which was right after that, of course. And he's like at that point, he's like, he just said, I need a break, basically.
Yeah.
But I knew I had made the right decision so right before the scourging, he wanted to be warned when things were going to get bad, right? So
Yeah.
we
Sure.
paused it before the scourging and told him it was about to get pretty violent. Kind of described to him what was about to happen. And, I told him, I told him when I see this, when I watch this scene or when I meditate on the scourging, I meditate how each one of like the strikes is like my sin doing that to Jesus. And he started crying at that point, like even before seeing the scourging. And it's like this, I'm like, this was a good decision, because watching that, then he you could tell like it really hit home with him, what to him being naughty or committing a sin, what that really is. So
Yeah. That's
so
cool,
my older daughter still can't watch it. My younger daughter can. My older daughter still cannot watch it. She's just like, Daddy, please don't make me watch it. Like she's just not capable of watching that level of violence. Like she doesn't, if somebody has a bloody nose, she freaks out. Like she just is incapable. She's so sensitive.
Little squeamish.
Now what I did kind of want to talk about is because I saw I forgot who posted it, but they were talking about how even when they watch like regular movies, like when you watched what was the show about the Mormons, Rob?
American Primeval,
right? Like when you're watching a massacre like that as a spectator, it desensitizes you somehow. Like it's like, because you made the point, you were like, well, most of human history people were exposed to violence like this, and it's like, but I think it's different when you're seeing it in real life and then when you're seeing it on a screen as a spectator. Like it kind of desensitizes you. And I don't know, I mean, I still personally love watching The Passion because I always find something new in it. Like this time around watching it, it was Peter's denial. And like, I really just put myself in Peter's shoes because I remember like early on in my conversion going out after a Christmas party with a bunch of guys and they were making fun of me for going to church. And I was like, no, it's not that big. Like, I don't really go. Like, and I denied my faith when I was younger. I was in like my 20s. And I just freaking remember like how easily you cave to the pressure and mimetic desire around you. So like that was what hit me this time. But the raw violence of that movie, I think some people are just too sensitive to handle it.
Yeah, I think so too. It's the greatest movie about the life of Christ.
Of course,
by far. Because, and the thing is it's like we don't even understand. Like the Passion is it is a very slight reflection of what was going on, because like St. Thomas talks about the internal passion that Christ had was so much greater than the physical wounds. And it's like we can't see that obviously in a movie screen. I remember the last time I watched The Passion, it was beautiful. There was people know a little bit of my story, but there was 4 of us who were all converting to the church together, 4 of us guys. And we watched The Passion the night before our first confessions. And we intentionally did this with examinations of conscience because we wanted to see like, okay, like we all our lives were just like, yeah, you pray this prayer and you're good to go. Like you never think about Christ's death aside from just kind of like when it's mentioned on Easter. But then when you're seeing these questions, it's like, have you thought impurely? Have you used your, have you lied? Have you been prideful? You just go through those lists and stuff. And then you're looking at what your sin did. And if you're like us, where it's like, wow, we're 21, 22, 23. It's like, wow, there's 20 years of my life where I was just doing this, no remorse. And like, look at what Christ did regardless. Like he did this for me regardless of whether or not I repented. That's the beautiful thing. So yeah, it is just objectively the best movie.
Yeah, but I think Molly's right. Like you can overwatch it and get desensitized to it. Like I do like that I only watch it that once a year. And watch it once a year, and it's like a liturgical thing that we're doing, and we really try to, go deep into it. Now, my older daughter she's tried the last few years. She just can't do it. So there's like, I think next year we're going to, after the Good Friday liturgy, maybe go try to see like a passion play or something like that. Something less violent that still she could handle. You know, it's just, I don't think she'll ever be able to. Like, she's just that kind of sensitive person. So like, I really do think that whole conversation is very, each person is different in how they can handle it. I think all men should be able to handle it.
Yeah.
But I do think you have to be a little bit cautious with some girls who are a little too sensitive.
Well, I also like how
somebody's kid's autistic or something, obviously.
Yeah, I like how Rob, you did it with your kid, like how you just like stopped and you explained it. And you were very gentle.
Oh yeah, I mean, so we only watched half of it, but it took us 2.5 hours to get through half of it because how much I was pausing and like explaining.
But
Plus,
it makes
you know, Maddie's just learning how to read English, so subtitles are a little hard for him, obviously.
Yeah, if it's in foreign language. Well, I was going to say that's good because I like the first time I watched The Passion, I think I was like 5 and I stumbled into it. How the context was, I was in Bible Sunday school at my old evangelical church, and they were playing some clips from it. They weren't playing the whole thing, but just from clips of it to kind of like show the reality of what Christ did. And I remember it scarred me. I still remember it in my mind. And I was just like, what is this? And it was just so scary. Like, what is happening to this guy? You know, it's like, I knew that Christ died for my sins even at that age, but it's like, it's different when you're 5 years old saying this and saying, what is going on to this guy? You know, it's not just an image up on a wall.
So. Yeah. I think it's like, I think it should stay as a once a year thing though. Like, I think you can overwatch it and stuff like that. So, all right. So look, Wednesday's going to be jam-packed. I know it's difficult for some people, but like, let's force ourselves to pray for Francis. Like, you know, I'm not going to sit here and be all pietistic and pretend it's easy. Like, it's going to be difficult for a lot of us. You know, if you're being honest, we've had a very rough 12 years under this pontificate, but try to look at how God has brought good through some of the pain that we've gone through. And remember that none of this pain has been physical chastisements yet. And I do think that is on the horizon. So I think we're in store for some stuff. I know you guys are super optimistic. I think we're getting the most holy Pope ever next, and the world's going to be rainbows and Sour Patch Kids falling from the sky, but
M&Ms,
yeah.
I have a safe that kind of proves I don't believe that, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you own more guns than me now, Rob. So
I have more than yeah.
And to all the new Catholics who came into the church, I don't know how many are actually watching this show, but like, to you Catholics who just came in this Easter, you guys will never forget this Easter, man. You came in, you get confirmed in the church, you receive communion for that first time, and the next day the Pope dies. You're getting a conclave. Like, you're getting all of Catholicism jammed into your 1 year of OCIA or whatever it is. Like, you guys get the full gamut. Stick around, guys. It's gonna get fun. This is what it means to be Catholic. So this is my I wonder if we could get somebody that remembers the election of John Paul II, who, like, they would have to be young. I mean, old. Like, they would have had to have been young when that happened.
How old is Kale?
Kale, I would think.
So John Paul was elected in 79,
78, 79, somewhere around there.
So he would have probably been around 10. I'm going to ask him if he remembers it.
Yeah, he might.
Hey, that's the other thing. Lofton and Ibarra made amends.
Yeah, if anyone's wondering, so Eric asked us to take some videos down, so we did, of course.
Yeah, I heard they're getting the band back together. Like, it's going to be like Elijah, Fawaz's brother. It's going to be Fawaz, Elijah Yazi, William Albrecht, Lofton, and Eric. I think they're all going to get together. I mean, no
Francis offense to Lofton, but I really hope getting the band back together is just figurative.
The thing is, I don't think that'll ever happen with us, but there is something good about making peace during Holy Week.
Well, now they won't have to fight about Francis.
Well, there you go. Maybe it was their prayers then.
Sign of the end time. Maybe Anthony is right.
Wait, I learned about the Passion this Lent. Christ in the Gospel sang to the garden. These were required psalms of thanksgiving, including 115, a hymn to the Father and Mary about taking up the chalice. I don't know if I knew that. Christ in the gospel sang in the garden. These were required psalms of thanksgiving.
I know I don't know that number one, but there is the passage, I think it's in St. John, where it talks about, and then they sung a hymn or a psalm, and the psalm is Psalm 117, I think it is. And it's really cool because the psalm ends with those passages about how the stone, right, which has now become the head of the corner, will be a stumbling block. And so basically what it is they're singing this psalm saying that the Messiah will be a stumbling block to the Jews as they're leaving the Last Supper going into the garden. It's pretty epic.
Yeah, and I have seen the and Father Jason Sharon had reached out to me following that episode with Christian. I had a good like half-hour conversation with him, and it was a good conversation. Like, we still clearly are apart on issues, but it was still a very charitable conversation. And at the end of it, we both agreed to just ask Our Lady to heal any wounds in the church. So I think, I mean, you know, the Pope just I was supposed to go on a Protestant show on Wednesday. I'm gonna have to reschedule that because we got too much going on. So I'll have to reschedule that. But there is a Protestant show that reached out to me, and they want to discuss the Jewish question. So that should be interesting. So when I reschedule that and I figure that one out, I'll let you guys know about it. But other than that, I will see you guys Wednesday morning on Joe McLean Show, and then 10 a.m. on this channel. Rob, take us out, brother.